Hello and welcome back to another video here on my channel. This time we're taking a look at our first French aircraft. And with that, I'll apologize in advance for all the butchered French pronunciations upcoming in this video. Anyways, the French, they are a weird bunch, and with their aircraft designs it's like with their cars. You either love them or hate them. I for once actually love French cars. I had a 2013 Peugeot RCZ and I still think that was a wonderful car. I wish I still had it. Well, and some of the French aircraft here in War Thunder are pretty damn good as well. The French tech tree here in War Thunder has a lot of potential. A lot of aircraft that were absolutely bonkers are still not in the game yet, but will hopefully come sooner than later. One of the more, historically at least, obscure ones is already in the game, and today this is the aircraft we're going to talk about, the Arsenal VG-33. Part of a series of small light fighter aircraft, the VG-33 is one of the best low-rank French fighters in the game right now, and today I'm going to show you why. But first things first, let's start with the history part of this aircraft. Now, when it comes to aircraft designs by France, believe it or not, they were often at the cutting edge. During World War I, French designers built some of the finest fighter aircraft of their time, like the Nieuport 17 or the Spat 13. And after the war, the French continued building a number of decent fighter aircraft as well. However, during the early 1930s, the French had somewhat fallen behind in terms of aircraft designing. The 1930s were an era of incredibly rapid changes in military aviation design. Biplanes became more and more second-rank aircraft once first high-performance monoplanes like the Messerschmitt Bf 109 appeared. More and more powerful engines became available as well, pushing designers to come up with aircraft of steadily increasing performance. To get the French aircraft industry up to date, the recently formed French Air Ministry ordered the creation of a state-sided research institution. This became known as the Arsenal du Matériel Aérien in 1934. In 1936, the entire French aircraft industry was nationalized. The company renamed into Arsenal de l'Aéronautique and placed its head center at Villers-Cotterêts. It was put under the leadership of Marius Vernis. Vernis was a World War I veteran and had studied in France and Japan. In 1925, he had joined the Air Corps and would subsequently be appointed to the new company. He was involved in the development of most of Arsenal's aircraft. Now, the roots of what would become the VG-33 can be traced back to 1936. Vernis had started work on a lightweight fighter aircraft around that time already. In 1937, he and another Arsenal designer, Jean Gaultier, worked on a new heavy fighter after the French Air Ministry saw the need for such an aircraft. The development of heavy fighters during the mid-1930s was a very interesting topic, and might be deserving of its own video. The development of such aircraft was conducted by several major air powers around the world at that time, and while most selected conventional twin-engine fighters, like the Me-110 or the Fokker G1, the French liked doing stuff differently. They designed an aircraft with tandem engines, with the engines mounted behind each other in the fuselage rather than two individual engines in the wings. After lots of rework and redesigning, this aircraft would only fly after the Second World War as the Arsenal VB-10. However, design lessons from the initial stages of VB-10 development would influence the design of the new lightweight fighter, particularly its wooden construction. This was chosen to make use of rapidly available and non-strategic materials, as well as to get the aircraft quickly under construction. The Spanish Civil War showed that the era of the biplane was coming to an end, and since France still had plenty of outdated aircraft in service, getting a fresh and high-performance monoplane fighter in service was therefore of utmost importance to them. However, a lot of the wood that was intended to be used for such an aircraft would actually have to be imported from other countries like Great Britain, which somewhat negates the positives of the wooden construction, but, well, it is what it is. And this would subsequently lead to delays in aircraft production, not least of which because subgroups of the airframe were not produced by the Arsenal plant locally, but outsourced to experienced carpentries, leading to further logistical problems. Nevertheless, the aircraft the designers came up with was a sleek, modern fighter aircraft with long, narrow wings and sleek and elegant lines. It was named the VG-30. A first mock-up of the fighter was presented at the Salon d'Aviation at the end of 1936 in Paris. The sleek proposal garnered the interest of French officials, resulting in Specification A23, requesting proposals for light fighter aircraft that would be able to quickly get into production and fill the French fighter squadron ranks with up-to-date aircraft, replacing outdated designs like the Dewartine 500 series. The VG-30 itself was powered by the Hispano-Suiza 12X CRS of some 690 horsepower, and this gives me a chance to talk a little bit about the HS-12, because this is actually one of the most legendary aircraft of that time period, despite it being generally overlooked. The HS-12 were a family of engines that would power a lot of the cutting-edge inline engine fighters of the French. You could argue that what the DB600 series was for the Germans or the Rolls-Royce Merlin was for the Brits, the HS-12 was the French equivalent. There were numerous versions of this engine family with different power levels. As its name suggests, the HS-12 was a liquid-cooled 12-cylinder aero engine. The 12X series would power the initial prototype of the VG-30, while later variants, including the production VG-33, would receive the much better known 12Y engine, and the final projected prototypes and variants would receive the promising 12Z. The 12Y would be so successful, in fact, that it formed the basis for the Soviet M100 engine, which would be further developed into the famous M105, powering most of the Yakovlev series of fighters. Power output ranged throughout the family from the 1920s 12H of some 450 horsepower up to the 12Z, which delivered power in the 1500 horsepower range. Well then, so much for the engine itself. Now back to the development of the VG-30. The VG-30 had hydraulically operated flaps, and while appearing very modern for its time, strangely featured a tail skid instead of a tail wheel, similar in configuration to the Romanian IAR-80 series of fighters. The first prototype of the VG-30 was ordered in early 1937. The aircraft was ready for flight tests only in October of the following year due to delays. The aircraft had to compete with other designs like the Caudron 714, Bloch MB700, the Senkao CAO 200 and Roussel R30. Of all these designs, only the C714 would be built in bigger numbers. And, well, the C714 was, to put it lightly, not a very good aircraft. While some of the other designs were good as well, they ran into delays and couldn't progress past the prototype stage before France fell to Germany in 1940. The VG-30 had sort of head start, and therefore work on the aircraft progressed somewhat faster. The official flight tests of the VG-30 revealed an agile, decently fast aircraft that excelled in diving maneuvers, reportedly hitting 805 kilometers during testing. A seriously impressive number for an aircraft of its day. Its top speed was 485 kilometers per hour. The armament followed French aircraft armament conventions, with a 20mm cannon in the nose and rifle-caliber machine guns in the wings. With a wingspan of less than 11 meters and a length of 8.4 meters, the VG-30 was a small aircraft, sturdily helping in keeping the weight down. While the aircraft showed potential, it was clear early on that the engine didn't have enough power to keep the aircraft competitive into the future. Pretty soon Arsenal searched for other engine solutions to power their fighter, with the VG-30 remaining a single prototype. This led to a variety of prototypes with different designations, some using foreign engines, others using domestically produced ones. French naming conventions are somewhat weird, well, at least in my opinion, because instead of giving the prototypes with new engines and other small changes different suffixes, they received individual aircraft designations, which, at least in my book, just makes things a little bit more complicated to see through. But anyways, the studies to improve upon the VG-30's performance led to the VG-31. This version featured a wing of reduced span and featured the HS-12Y31 of some 860 horsepower. The big underside radiator of the VG-30 was moved further back, as well to improve the aircraft's balance. While the new engine would give the aircraft more power, the wing size reduction would result in worse handling, something that was deemed unacceptable, and therefore the VG-31 was actually never completed. Next in line, VG-32 was to be powered by the American Allison V1710C-15. This would give the fighter a little bit over 1000 horsepower, a dramatic increase from the 680 horsepower of the basic VG-30. To accommodate the new engine, the fuselage was lengthened by 42 centimeters. Despite the numerical discrepancy, the VG-32 actually came after the VG-33. I'm just keeping it in numerical order for conveniency. This is why the fifth prototype VG-33 was used as the basis for the VG-32. With the changes of a new engine also came changes in wings. These were now modified to house one additional 20mm cannon each. Indeed, the French were somewhat shifting their armament priorities during that time, with more and more heavy cannon-focused fighter aircraft on the drawing board. In that way, the French had somewhat of a leading role, as the cannon would become the fighter aircraft's weapon of choice for a majority of the participating nations during the course of World War II. Although, in keeping with the French taking things to the extreme, some of these designs had just absurd levels of armament, with the planned production versions of the SE-100 heavy fighter, for example, featuring no less than 10 20mm cannons. But anyhow, the VG-32 project, despite its potential, would ultimately be caught up by the course of the war. Despite logistical difficulties, France ordered 400 VG-32s in 1940, but none could be completed before the fall of France. Ultimately, the VG-32 would never take to the sky. In numerical order, the VG-33 comes next. This was the only one of the VG-30 family that went into mass production, although only in the lowest sense of the word really. The VG-33 combined the engine of the VG-31 with the original wing of the VG-30. The resulting aircraft was one of the best fighter aircraft in the French arsenal, and you could argue might have been one of the best fighter aircraft anywhere in the world at that time. Small, nimble and lightweight, the VG-33 displayed excellent performance despite having a less powerful engine than the latest frontline fighter of the French, the Dewartine D520. The VG-33 was maneuverable, great in the dive, stable, and with a top speed of 558 km per hour, just as fast as the Dewartine. Moreover, its empty weight of 2050 kg put it in the same weight class as the current Bf-109E, which had an empty weight of 2010 kg. The VG-33 was really built to get the maximum out of its HS-12Y31 engine. The aircraft has very clean lines and was designed as aerodynamic as possible. The oil cooler and air intake were small and as faired into the wings as possible. The wings were free of any clumsy radiators, instead one big radiator sat under the fuselage. Making its first flight on the 25th of April 1939, the VG-33 showed good performance, and after flight trials, France ordered the type into production as soon as possible. However, delays in acquiring the necessary wood for the aircraft led to serious delays, which is kind of funny if you remember that wood was specifically chosen to get the aircraft into production more quickly. The first production VG-33 was not ready until a year after the aircraft had first taken to the sky. This was incredibly bad news for the VG-33 and the French nation as a whole, since Germany started its Westfeldzug, or Fall Gelb as it was known in Germany, in May of 1940. This led to the French Air Force only receiving a handful of VG-33s. Only 7 are known to have been handed over to the Armée de l'Air. It is generally agreed upon that 19 VG-33s had been completed before France fell in June 1940, with roughly 160 in various stages of completion. The chaotic situation meant that some of the aircraft were delivered incomplete, some of them missing landing gear covers. None of the aircraft took part in any battles, arriving way too late to have any impact on the war situation. Only a few patrols were flown before the aircraft were either captured or evacuated and later destroyed by their own crews. The Germans captured a number of the Arsenal fighters and thoroughly tested them, although eventually all were scrapped. While it didn't directly participate in the Battle of France, it is interesting to speculate what could have been. The VG-33 certainly could have been a dangerous opponent to Germany's Bf-109. The VG-33 was fast and maneuverable, with decent armament, and was one of the most advanced French fighters. Below 5,000 meters, the VG-33 would have been more than a match for the German fighter, surpassing the performance of its French rival, the D-520, as well. Its lack of a supercharger would have made the aircraft inferior above 5,000 meters to the Bf-109, but more advanced versions, some with superchargers, were already in development and underway when France fell. Had the French sorted out their logistical issues, the VG-33 could have made quite an impact in the war over France, especially since the aircraft offered a lot of further development potential. From the VG-33, the VG-34 was developed. This swapped out the 12Y-31 to a Y-45, fitted with a supercharger to give the aircraft better altitude performance. This aircraft achieved a speed of 575 km per hour at 6,200 meters, but only a single prototype could be built and test flown before the fall of France. The VG-35 again pushed power to 1,100 horsepower, thanks to the fitment of a 12Y-51 engine. This variant achieving almost 600 km per hour, but again only a single prototype could be built and test flown. VG-36 differed only in some exterior modifications to further streamline the aircraft. It featured a more narrow radiator and a modified rear fuselage. Again, only one was built. VG-37 and VG-38 were only paper projects and would not be built, as well as further plans to mate the Rolls-Royce Merlin or Allison V1710 to the aircraft. The final evolution that would actually be built was the VG-39. This variant upped the machine gun armament from 4 to 6 Mach 1934 machine guns, while initially omitting the 20mm Hispano HS-404 cannon in the prototype, although the production version would receive the 20mm weapon. The most significant change, however, was the fitment of the Hispano-Suiza HS-12Z engine. This was the final evolution of the HS-12 and produced 1,200 horsepower, giving the VG-39 more than enough power. The production version of the VG-39, VG-39 bis, would incorporate all the lessons learned from the VG-33 and its variants, using the streamlined radiator from the VG-36, the new 6-gun wing, a 20mm engine cannon coupled with the latest variant of the 12Z, the 12Z-17, producing a whopping 1,300 horsepower, making the VG-39 comparable in terms of power output and armament to the Bf-109F. However, no VG-39 bis were built due to France's defeat. However, the single VG-39 prototype would fly right before the start of the war on the 3rd May of 1940, demonstrating a most impressive 625 km per hour, showing how capable a production VG-39 bis could have been, and this is certainly an aircraft that is missing in the game. The VG-39 and possibly the bis version could certainly fit perfectly at rank 3.7 to 4.0 in the French tech tree, and they could be the French equivalents to the Bf-109 F4. Unfortunately for us, not a single VG-33 has survived to this day. All were destroyed at some point either by their crews or scrapped after testing, bringing an end to what could have been one of the best French fighter aircraft of its day. Well then, and so much for the history part. I'd say let's then take a look at this French beauty here in game. Now, as for the VG-33 here in game, it sits at a battle rating of 2.7 at rank 2 in the French tech tree. It's the last rank 2 aircraft in the fighter tree of rank 2 before you transition to rank 3 with the Devoitin D520. Although, to be fair, the VG-33 is a much better aircraft than the D520. But anyways, in terms of modifications, this is a rather straightforward air superiority fighter. No fancy bomb racks or anything. This thing is just geared towards the air-to-air role. Go for the flight performance mods first and then for the weaponry modifications. Skip the survivability mods till last, since they don't do really that much, and the VG-33 with its wooden construction is not the most survivable aircraft anyways. As for the belts, go for the universal or stealth belts with the 20mm gun, and for the 7.5mm machine guns it doesn't really matter. I tend to use the stealth belts, but you could also use the tracer or universal belts. there isn't really that much difference. As for skins, there aren't really any available, but this is not really surprising since very few of these machines were built, but the standard skin, if you ask me, is a very good looking one. And with that, well, I think we can already jump towards the aircraft in a test flight. So, now we come to the VG-33's flight performance. What you get with the VG-33 is not only a stunning looking aircraft, I mean, how can you not like this machine? Absolutely beautiful. But you also get one of the best performers at its battle rating. This machine can go toe-to-toe with some of the most legendary fighters of that BR, like the Bf-109E and F, Corsairs, Hellcats, and the like. The engine is geared towards low altitude performance, which means you should stay below 5,000 meters, which is not really difficult since dogfights at this BR tend to be fought at lower altitude anyways. Nevertheless, it is advisable to maintain some level of altitude at the beginning of the match. While this is true for basically any dogfight scenario, having some altitude to spare is even more important with the VG-33, since one of its major advantages is its very good dive performance. I would advise to climb to around 3,000 to 4,000 meters at the beginning of the match, stay around there, and then fight your way down basically. Speaking of the VG-33's dive performance, as you can see, this thing gains speed in a dive very quickly. This thing can easily go over 700 km per hour, and as you can see, it remains easy on the controls. I have no problems pulling this thing out of a dive. This sort of dive performance is really exceptional for this BR. It is easily able to be on par in terms of dive capabilities with the Bf-109s, which are actually very good at diving. I mean, some of them can go, I think, almost 800. Oh, they can certainly go over 700, almost 800 kilometers per hour. And this little wooden fighter certainly can keep up with that. As you can see, really no problem at all. The roll rate takes a hit, of course, at these kinds of speed. I mean, the VG-33 is not the best rolling airplane. I would classify it as average in terms of roll rate compared to its competition. This certainly isn't any Focke-Wulf 90 level of roll rate, but it certainly is enough. The VG-33 also has superb energy retention, on par or even exceeding the 109 models of this BR, which are known for their energy fighting capabilities. This, coupled with a decent 175 kg per square meter wing loading and the clean aerodynamics of the VG-33, make the aircraft a superb dogfighter both in the vertical and the horizontal. The good energy retention allows for prolonged turning engagements in the horizontal with aircraft of lesser maneuverability, while also allowing the aircraft to dogfight machines that turn better than itself in the vertical. Even Spitfires aren't safe from this thing if you manage to properly energy fight them. The VG-33 is able to hang on its prop quite well. It also is able to perform hammerheads and other vertical maneuvers very, very well. As you can see, this thing remains very easily controllable even when it nears its stall speed. The armament of the VG-33 is also quite good. You get 4 7.5mm Mach 19 machine guns, which have, as you can see, a pretty damn good rate of fire. And they also have plenty of ammunition, 500 rounds per gun. You also get one centrally mounted 20mm Hispano HS-404 cannon. This one, however, has only very limited amounts of ammunition, only 60 rounds. A lot of these early war aircraft equipped with these 20 mils, they have 60 round magazines or drums. Because of that, it is very advisable to set up a key to switch between the machine guns and the cannons. I, for example, do this with the Alt key. As it doesn't get any secondary ordnance, this aircraft is fully geared towards air-to-air combat, which is certainly fits my playstyle. One disadvantage of the VG-33 is that it doesn't have any combat flap settings. It only gets the landing flap configuration, and of course with that you can only deploy these at rather low speeds. You can see they deploy rather slowly, but you will get the as you can see, the flaps will rip off rather easily. However, at very low speeds, if you get this thing below 300 kilometers per hour, these flaps can enhance the aircraft's turning capabilities. Also, the engine tends to overheat rather quickly at water emergency power, so keep an eye on that. Other than that, this aircraft is actually rather beginner friendly in my opinion. If you go down the French tech tree, this is certainly one of the highlights, if you ask me. A beautiful aircraft with great performance. This is an aircraft that is immense fun to fly. And with all these theories now, let's get to the practical part of this video and show you some gameplay with this thing. So, and here for our first video, for first battle with the VG-33, we are in a pretty standard battle here against the Germans. We are facing a lot of Bf-109s, Focke-Wulf 190s, Bf-110s, and the occasional bomber tossed in there as well. And as you can see, I've taken the VG-33 up to 3,500 meters. This is, well, your preferred altitude really. You are staying in the VG-33's optimal altitude for engine performance. Remember, this is an engine that likes to run at lower altitudes, and it still allows you for good boom and zoom energy maneuvers. And I have selected the Bf-110 there as my first target, since he is pretty isolated. He is trying to shoot on our DB7, so I should probably help him out. And this makes, of course, for an easy first target. As you can see, I am trying to slot in from behind or get a good deflection shot on him. Select both the cannons and the machine guns for the first pass, open fire, and get a few shots in. Get him critted, and as quickly as that, that's half of my cannon ammunition gone. So yeah, you really need good trigger patience with this aircraft to get the most out of those 60 20mm cannon rounds. Then again, switch back to the machine guns and try to finish him off, maybe set his engines on fire, something like that. Get a few more good hits in, but yeah. Switch targets, Ju-88 and a Focke-Wulf 90 up ahead. I select the Focke-Wulf 190 as my second target. Leave the Ju-88B, 88B, since I don't really have that much cannon ammunition. Position myself for a good deflection shot, and boom, as quickly as that, that's my first kill. Then swing around to re-engage the Bf-110, closing the distance really fast, so he's probably heavily damaged from my first pass on him. And it seems he's going down, and yep, there it is, kill number 2. And again, we are now climbing. Get a little bit of altitude before we are re-engaging. There's a C202 and a Focke-Wulf 190 with a Bf-109 egressing the area. And they are gonna shoot down that F2A. So this is now a 2 versus 1 fight. Both have spotted me. I am trying to evade the head-on with the 190, then also evade the head-on with the C202. Take the VG-33 into the vertical, where it performs best. And as quickly as that, I am behind the C202, and the Hurricane has now also entered the fray. So again, it's now 2 versus 2 again. Fire off the last of my cannon ammunition and cut off the C202's wing. Now only the Focke-Wulf 190 left, and I am clear right now. trying to engage the 190, but he wants to force the head-on. I evade it, take one hit. Fortunately, it doesn't do anything, and now I can just dance with this guy. Almost hit him on my first pass. Evade his angle on me. And look at how easy this thing maintains its controllability even at low speed. Look at that, that's just fantastic. And now I have the advantage. I can now close in on the 190. The Hurricane is also closing in, and it's he ultimately that will get the kill on that Focke-Wulf. So good for him. And now there's only that Focke-Wulf 200 left, and I think the BF-109 that egressed the combat area earlier. So yeah, not gonna get that Focke-Wulf 200, not with my remaining ammunition, so instead I'm trying to search for the BF-109. I suspect he has gone to rearm on his base, so that's where I am headed. And now we have skipped ahead a little bit. Didn't really, there wasn't really happening anything other than just me flying towards his base. And the ticket counter is going down rapidly. And then I spot the BF-109. He is actually trying to fight this out, which could have done. We could have just waited until the ticket counter ran down, but he chose to fight. And well, in this situation I do have every advantage. I have the altitude advantage, the speed advantage, and the maneuverability advantage, so I can select how to fight this, make a quick pass. He doesn't notice me actually, and I easily get my 4th kill. And with that I have won this match for the team. Pretty decent match, 4 kills, top of the leaderboard as well. And let's quickly see the results of this battle. Not too shabby for a low tier non-premium account match. So yeah, that's the sort of stuff you can expect with the VG33. So, and here for our final presentation with the VG33, we are again in a, well, more or less standard battle against the Germans and the Italians. And as you can see, we are keeping the VG33 at altitude. Spot our first target, Ju-87, making a high-speed dive on him. I've run with the stealth ammunition in this match, and we are lining up our approach. Come on, both guns selected, and come on, come on. Ah, okay. Didn't get him on my first pass, unfortunately. Put the VG33 into a little power climb, then loop around, and let's have another go. Ju-87, very easy target, very slow, and that's the end of him. Unfortunately, we are now rather low to the ground, wasted a lot of energy in there, but we can quickly build it up again. Heinkel 112 and another Ju-87 trying to sandwich me, avoid the Ju-87's shot. Come on. Yes. Now only the Heinkel 112 behind me. Let's get a little bit of distance. I don't want to fight them both at the same time. Ju-87 can be surprisingly maneuverable at very low speed. So let's be a little bit careful here. Alright. Come on. Avoid that shot. We're trying to get the drop on the Heinkel 112 somehow. Oh man, they're actually both trying to dogfight me. Holy shit. Oh well, I'm up for the challenge. Heinkel 112 running a little bit wide there. Oh boy, that's gonna cost you dearly, boy. Line up the shot. Come on. Yes, got him critical. Almost completely out of cannon ammunition right now. Only one shot remaining, but still plenty of 7mm machine gun ammunition remaining. Okay, Ju-87 trying to have another go. Let's just avoid him and try to finish off the Heinkel 112, and then we can focus on the Ju-87 solely. Oh, okay, Heinz 112 has gone down, great. Now we can just climb and leave the Ju-87 behind us. He has no chance of climbing with a VG-33. And we are now taking this fight into the vertical. Just hanging on the prop. Any second now. Yep, that should be enough. Let's perform a small hammerhead. Oh. Oh no, oh, he's actually still trying. Oh, okay. Actually got his nose high, up high enough. So let's just perform another loop. And now he should be completely out of energy. Yep, and now we can get the drop on him. Again, lining up the shot. Come on. Come on. There it is. Kill number 3. Alright. Oh, this is actually a very small battle. Didn't even notice right now. Oh, okay. And it's, oh god, only one other pilot in my team got the kill. So this seems to depend on me. Oh well, at least we still have the DB7 on our team. Maybe he can bait some of the other aircraft out. And we are gonna go for a small rearm, because that 20mm cannon ammo can come in handy. I think one of the last remaining aircraft is a bomber. I think what's it, a BR-20 Seconia? I think it's one of the Italian bombers. So let's go for a small rearm here. And we have skipped a little bit ahead, because, well, nobody is really interested in seeing me landing, probably. And the last enemy fighter, a BF-110, has made its appearance, trying to get the DB-7. Unfortunately, he is right below me. Well, that's unfortunately for him. For me, it's pretty fortunate, because that means I can easily get the drop on him, and he has no chance of dogfighting a VG-33. Line up the shot, come on. Get him critical. Avoid the overshoot, taking her into a small climb, and then yo-yoing around to get the drop on him. And there it is, kill number 4. That leaves only one enemy aircraft left. Okay. Let's search for that enemy bomber. Must be here somewhere. 24 cannon shots remaining. And plenty of machine gun ammo. Alright. Oh, also, you might have noticed that I have taken quite a lot of fuel with this aircraft. That is not by choice. This is the lowest amount of fuel you can take into battle. The VG-33 has, well, it would perform even better if it had the possibility to equip less fuel at default, because it would be lighter then. But anyways, we are heading into the vicinity of the enemy base, trying to look. Oh well, you know what? You just activated blind hunt. Oh, he's actually really there. Let's see. What's Is he actually trying to take off? He actually is. Well, kudos to him. That gives me the possibility to might get an ace. And I can handle this pretty easily. I mean, there is no enemy, no friendly fighters around that team anyway, so we are in no rush in getting that kill. Alright then, let's make our pass. Okay, let's set ourselves up. Make sure we are... that's what I meant. Make sure we are out of range of the enemy AA. There should be any second now. And here we go. Let's see. Need to keep an eye out for those gunners. Although that's a perfect attack angle. Come on. Come on. Yes! There it is. 5 kills. That's an ace in a day with the VG-33. Yeehaw! Basically took down the enemy team on my own. Well then, and here are the results. With a non-premium account, I'd say that is not a bad result for such a low tier match. 5 kills, excellent game with the VG-33. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. Would I recommend the VG-33? Absolutely. I mean, this is, in my opinion, the very best low-tier French fighter aircraft, fully geared towards the air-to-air role. This aircraft will certainly reward anyone who's looking for a thoroughbred dogfighter. A truly fantastic aircraft in my opinion. Also a pretty good low-tier grinder, especially if you slap a talisman on it. It's cheap as chips to run. There's really nothing wrong with this machine. And it's certainly competitive. Certainly an aircraft that doesn't get the attention it so certainly deserves. Well, and with that, I'd say we end this video and I'll see you on the next one.